Umbareen, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. I'm so happy that you were able to be here with me this evening. So thank you.
No, thank you for having me.
Yes, yes. So go ahead and introduce yourself to us for people who may not know who you are, so they can kind of get familiar with you.
Yep, my name's Umbreen. I have been a resident of Midland since 2000. Um, we have Khalid and I, my husband. We have four kids. Three are college students, and one is a third grader. And I just spend a lot of time doing a lot of stuff where I don't get paid for any of what I do, which drives my husband crazy. But just a lot of community service. I like to give back to the community and um, do whatever I can to help others. So,
Yeah, yeah, you definitely. I mean, and that's kind of an understatement. You really kind of said that real mild. You do a lot
yeah.
in the community, and quite honestly, sometimes I'm like, how does she have the time, the mental capacity? But when you are heart driven, it's like you become almost like with superpowers. And I'm not trying to make it sound, but I mean you really do. You're outside of sometimes that human barriers because you just keep going when you're kind of driven by heart.
Also think that behind every person that's trying to lead the service project, there are hundreds of people that are so willing to do all the hard work.
Which
So
is
they
true.
just want somebody to maybe guide them. So I'm super grateful that I get to be in a position sometimes where I can come up with an idea and try to guide people to it. And there are so many people that make it come to fruition. So it's
Yeah.
great.
And an added attribute that you have is humility because you always deflect away from all that you do. I mean, you do a lot, and there is a team of people always that give so much as well to help dreams come true. Especially when we had the flood here, and I mean the amount of people that came out and helped with that was amazing. But you do a lot. You do a lot, and so I really appreciate what you do in the community, and I appreciate you. So
Thank
just
you.
wanted to add that in there. Let's start off with some questions. And matter of fact, let's get right into this one because that's kind of what we touched on. How have you intentionally showed up and helped to bring change in the world?
So initially, I guess when I moved here early 2000, my kids were younger, and my primary focus was actually trying to help the Muslim community within Midland because when we first moved, very few Muslim families, no place of worship really. We used basements and we rented community centers and so on and so forth. So we had moved here from Houston, which
Oh,
is fourth largest city, right?
yeah,
You have family in Houston,
yeah,
huge Muslim community. So to
yeah,
go from Houston to Midland, it was a shock. So
yeah.
I would say my initial years in Midland was more focused on helping the Muslim community find their central location and, try to
Sure.
unify them and get them. But eventually, I guess I fell into place of realizing that Midland is my home now, and now
Yeah,
it really is because I've been here 20 years. And how can I serve the people in the Midland community? So I'm also the mentor for the Muslim youth group. So a lot of time has been spent just volunteering at nursing homes and soup kitchens. That was probably my initial stepping into the community service waters in Midland. And then it just has snowballed to where when the flood happened, the Islamic Center of Midland was able to take a huge role in helping flood victims because we were lucky that we were not affected by the floodwaters, but we
yeah.
easily could have been. So
Mhm.
where it came to collecting money, serving meals, cleaning out basements, helping people rebuild a home. I mean, you
I
name
mean,
it, we've done it. But again,
yeah,
a lot of help. And it's been a humbling experience. It's been in a world where Muslims are so often portrayed as negative, it's been super nice to be in a situation where people see the name Islamic Center Midland and they smile and they're like, oh, you're the one that, you did this or you did that. I mean, let's face it, we all like to be looked at positively
of
because
course.
it's for a benefit and an asset to the community. And I think for a lot of people, when they hear Islamic Center of Midland, that's what comes to mind now. So, so I'm on the board for the Midland County Foster Closet. So I personally did not know very much at all about foster kids. Have learned so much in my 3-4 years that I've been on the board about what all is entailed and what a difficult journey our children have, especially when they don't have the guidance of their parents. So that's been a huge learning curve for me about what that entails. So between the foster closet and all the other community service events through the Islamic Center, I'm always busy.
Yeah. But I like how you touched on how people do associate Islam with negative things sometimes, especially if they're not, informed and, kind of intentionally connected with some parts of it. So I do like that, because it is interesting, because now, like you said, when people say that Islamic Center, they're like, oh, those are the people that did this, so it does shed some light. And that's what we have to do. We have to help change narratives.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not really our responsibility to make people think differently, but we can give them something to help them grow.
Sure. Absolutely.
How they receive it. Yeah.
And I do hope that even for, if not Islamic Center, I hope that when people hear my name, for example, that hopefully they can put 2 and 2 together and say, oh, she's Muslim, she's with the Islamic Center, but it doesn't make sense. She doesn't look like a terrorist to us. I mean, it's funny because just in these days, right, in the last couple of days, there's been all this controversy in Congress with the congresswoman from Minnesota being called Ilham. She was called, some other congresswoman said, she's part of the jihad squad. I mean, this is like still happening. Like we're in 2021, right? And we're still dealing with lawmakers that have been elected because they're Muslim. They're being, bigoted,
persecuted, really. I mean,
right. So it's like, we may think that we've come a long ways and that we don't need to worry about this anymore, but we actually haven't, right? We're in some respects, we still have a long ways to go. So
exactly. It is interesting because I always say, I think things morph. I think they morph sometimes, but they, they're still there, and I think people like to say, oh, that's the past. But to me, it's like, no, it's still the present because it's still happening. It may look different, but it is exactly the same thing that's been happening. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So that's why I appreciate what you do, and the Islamic Center, of course, Nadeem and his wife, just what they do to help change that narrative, because we have to just intentionally show up and in the world to help people out a little bit.
Yeah. And I think it would be so easy to close, I think it'd be easier to close yourself off from all the negativity around you and look internally inwards. But then no, because I feel then you've sort of given up maybe and accepted defeat. And I'm as much part of Midland as anybody else in Midland, right? Like, why not? I mean, I've been here 20 years. Like this is the longest I've ever lived anywhere, Midland. Yeah. So I know I belong here. My kids belong here. So we're going to live our life as if, we are Midlanders. That's what we are. So,
yes. And we are supposed to be here for sure. My next question for you is, share a moment that changed you in some way.
I guess it wasn't necessarily one moment, but it was, I would say my high school education at the Catholic high school. So when I was 10, we moved back to Pakistan because that's where my parents had come from. We had really no family. I was 10 years old and mom always wanted to go back. So we moved back. And then when I was 14, about to start high school, we moved back. So I went to an all-girls Catholic high school in Akron, Ohio. And so, of course, I was coming from living in Pakistan and going, we obviously all schools are Muslim schools there. We learn about our religion, so on and so forth. So now I was the only Muslim going to an all-girls Catholic high school where I also had to take religion class and learn about Catholicism. And I'm like, all right, this is cool. I know nothing. So so what happened in those 4 years, I feel is super cool because, and in large part because of the amazing religion teachers I had. But rather than just teach me about Catholicism, my teachers always wanted to learn about Islam as well.
Oh.
So being in a Catholic high school, I feel I really learned more about my religion. And people just look at me funny when I mention this story, like, really? And I'm like, yeah, because anytime, like, let's say we talk about what does Catholicism say about abortion, or what does Catholicism say about capital punishment, the teachers, whichever teacher they were, they'd always come back to me, well, what does Islam say? And I have to tell you, I mean, sometimes I didn't know, like, so I'd go home and I'd be researching and trying to learn more. So it was, I guess, going to a Catholic high school that made me learn more about my faith, and they helped me become a more confident Muslim, if that makes sense, which is just so weird.
No,
but,
yeah.
But it was basically, so I started covering actually as a sophomore in high school, because I don't know. I mean, all the learning and self-reflection I was doing, I guess I felt good about what my faith was, what it taught me. And I credit my Catholic education to making me a better Muslim. Because the teachers pushed me to learn about my faith, So I'm so grateful for that education. Like I feel like I am today because of the education I got in that high school. I mean, they allowed me to be who I was, and they cherished that, and they liked that, and they applauded that, and
they seem to nurture it.
Yeah.
So you said that you started covering while you were in high school.
Yes.
How was that transition? Was it?
Yeah. So of course, why would I try to make it easy? Like if I had went in as a freshman covering that, that's what I would have been. No. I had to make it more difficult. I mean, freshman year, I was still finding myself. So as a sophomore, after the summer of freshman year, I'm like, yep, I think I'm ready to do the hijab. And okay, so parents are like, okay, awesome, this is good, but obviously, I mean, before summer vacation, your friends saw you a certain way. You go back after summer vacation, they're like, well, what happened to you? Like, really? Like, so
we have questions. Yeah,
a lot of questions, a lot of explaining. But it was fine. Again, it was accepted. It was
that's really good. That, I mean, you were blessed with that for sure.
Sure. I agree with you. I think it was it was a blessing. I mean, the way they sort of, I don't know. Yeah, I think nurtured is a word you use, and that's what it was. They nurtured me being the only Muslim and wanted to make sure that I always felt comfortable at school. Or when we had to go to church occasionally, there were certain masses I had to attend. And then, of course, religion class all 4 years. But it was an amazing experience. I mean, I'm truly blessed.
That is a blessing, because I mean, you hear stories and it's not always like that. So that's wonderful. That's wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. One thing you would tell your younger self?
I would say that if you're having a difficult time in your life, it's not going to last. Yeah. Okay, so just be patient and ride the wave. And honestly, like I feel even 5 years ago, I didn't realize that. Maybe not even 3 years ago. It's been very recently I have realized that, when you go down, eventually you are going to go up. It's okay. Yeah. It's the bad is not always going to stay, but you just got to be patient, push through it, persevere, figure out what you need, what the mechanisms you need to cope with it, whatever difficulty you're having in your life. But it's temporary. It's not permanent. It's temporary, and you're gonna be on the upswing sooner rather than later.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great advice. It's interesting too, because I always think about with childbirth, or like if you're sick, right? When you're in that moment, it feels like life is ending. Yeah. Like, you just literally have nowhere else to go. It's like, when am I going to get relief? And then once it's passed, it's almost like you not forget, but you just like, oh, that did happen,
Yeah. Like you don't even remember, right? Honest to God, I that is so true, because I feel, for all of my kids that were born, I generally remember the experience, but I don't remember
I don't know how to explain it. Yes,
Yeah.
I told someone this before. I was like, of course, I remember that it hurt. I remember that there was pain and there was agony.
Yeah.
I do remember that, but I don't remember it like in a tangible way. I don't know how to explain it. Like
Exactly.
I know it happened, but I don't
Yeah.
remember the same way I remember my toothache. I've had a toothache before that I can like. It's almost like muscle memory where I can like, oh, that hurts so bad. But with childbirth, it's really interesting. I like what you said. It will pass. Things will pass. But at that moment, it does feel like it's like devastating. Life is over, and it just takes over everything.
And my personality is such that, like, that's very hard for me. Like, this realization is a difficult one to internalize, because I'm just like, I don't do well with, I don't do well with difficult situations. And I'm just like, you know, my husband says, your cup is always half empty. I'm like, yeah, well, it is more than half. It's probably 3/4 empty. You know, it's literally, there's a drought going on. There's nothing in the cup, but it's not always. And things change. Nothing is permanent in this life. So
no, it's not. No, it's not. That is very true. So what's the lesson that you learned that you didn't understand at the time, but you do now?
Okay, give me a second.
Yes.
A lesson they didn't understand. Oh, well, here's a good one.
Yeah.
I think it's so. I guess one of my things is most of the time I give everyone the benefit of the doubt. I always think good of everyone. And just like everybody else, sometimes I've been burned by people. And, you know, my mom would always say, just be careful, you know, you don't know what's inside a person's heart, but not everybody may have your best intention in their heart, you know? So you have to be more pragmatic and smart about that, you know, not naive, I guess.
Sure.
That's been a hard one, because I don't know, my personality, I immediately always think the best of everyone, give everyone the benefit of the doubt. If somebody does something, I'll make excuses for them. Oh, they probably didn't mean that or this or whatever. And sometimes it's been to my detriment. So I guess it's not thinking ill of people, but understanding that, there are all sorts of people out there, some good, some bad. And if someone doesn't have the best of intention or the best heart, I mean, that's on them, and you don't have to confront them or do anything, but to be aware of it so that you don't get hurt, or someone close to you doesn't get hurt. So it's, I guess, recognizing people. And I've been super naive many times about that, you know, because it's like, I would never do that, or I would never think that. So how can that even be true? And it's like, well, not everybody's like you. And believe me, I have many faults as well. So I don't mean
we all do.
You know, but I'm just, I don't know, too trusting, I guess, sometimes.
Well, and some people, I mean, just really have, you know, some evil in their heart, or, you know, some people are really in some how do I want to say it, desperate situations, right? Where even 2 years ago, they would have never thought they would have done that. You know what I'm saying? Or been in that situation, but they are. So, because I remember years ago, a friend of mine, she was so upset. I think it was something on the news about some city where it was a lot of like car theft and all this kind of stuff. And she looked at me, she's like, why would somebody steal? You know, why do people steal? And, you know, she grew up here. And, you know, so she didn't really get to see a lot of things when you're in different areas, right? And so I was trying to explain to her that, you know, everybody does not steal or do crime just because they woke up and said, I want to do this. You know, sometimes they're not excusing that behavior, but sometimes it's like desperation. You know, like you literally are like, how do I feed my children today? They are literally crying from stomach pains. How do I feed them? So I'm going to take a chance and do this and hope for the best.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. I mean, I'm always the type, I like to put myself in somebody else's shoes. But but again, I mean, that can be then again also be to your detriment, because there are some people out there that unfortunately don't have the best of intention or best intentions for someone.
Yeah, it's the truth. It's the truth. And for whatever reason they do it, it is true. People will do that and take advantage of a situation. And so you do have to be, aware, aware, and try to be in tune with the energy, because some people they'll put out that energy. It's just something, like you said, our hearts won't recognize it because we want to see the good in them, and we kind of miss out on the signs that are shown to us.
Yes.
It does happen sometimes. So my last question for you is, if you had some words of encouragement to leave with us, what would they be?
There'd be so many. One would be, don't ever judge a book by its cover, right? When you see someone different than you, approach them, talk to them, try to learn about who they are, there's just such beautiful diversity in this world. I mean, we truly are so blessed that God put us on a world where there's so many different types of us, to get to know them and learn from them. Another one would probably be, listen to scientists. They actually do know something. Sorry. This whole COVID thing has just got me so worked up these days. I mean, there are people getting an education, who are much more learned than many of us, because this is what they're studying, right? So when we get ill, we go to our healthcare workers because we expect them to help us get better. So let's do our part in these days to make sure that we're protecting everybody around us. And I mean, honestly, I feel partly that this pandemic is a test to see, can the world work together? All right. So God's like, all right, here's this virus. I'm going to throw it out there, and let's see, can you guys work as a team to defeat it? And so far we're failing miserably, but it is, I mean, not just within our country, but even in the whole world, right? Poor countries that don't have vaccines, rich countries that don't want to share it. I mean, it's like we're never going to get out of this until we realize we're all one big family. We all got to work together, because until we rid it from everywhere, we're going to be caught up in it. I mean, it's going to affect all of our lives. So, which goes back to, we're lucky we have the diversity in the world that we do. We're all one big family. So let's try to figure out how we live together. We don't have to like all of it, right? Just like at Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner, you don't have to be best buds with every family member that shows up, but you give them the respect and dignity that God gave them, right? And try to live a civilized life, and so that we can move on and do other things that we need to do to take care of this planet.
Yeah. This is definitely, I know before we came on, we were talking about how it's been an interesting 2 years. It's been an interesting 2 years. And, from the beginning of 2020, like around March or so, till now, it's just been very interesting. I mean, we've learned so much about, like you said, how much people care about each other in so many different ways. I mean, not just what you mentioned, but it's just been such a reveal from the summer of 2020 to, from March. I mean, it's just been such a reveal on how people really think or feel about the other person, So it's been something that I've really had to process. 2020, I call it the great reveal. 2020 was like the great reveal.
I would agree with you 100%. It's been, and it's difficult. It's difficult for those of us that have elderly parents we take care of. It's difficult for those that have immunocompromised people in our families. I mean, I don't know. I just struggle a lot with people's inability to do as much as they can to help somebody else, their fellow American or fellow global citizen. when things are just so difficult, for so many. So struggling with that. But lucky that I have people like you and the little village I've created around myself. That's what's helped me get through, honestly, the last couple of years. I mean, I'm not saying we should live in a bubble. No way. I do want to meet and talk to other people as well. But sometimes you just need your bubble because you can just take a deep breath and feel protected and safe within that,
And retreat, it's like just retreat and decompress and recollect yourself. I mean, there's so many things that go on when you kind of go away from things and go into your bubble. And I think it's okay. We just can't stay there, right?
Right.
We have to, and but going back for like a little reprieve and just like, look, little respite, like I need this time. I think it's healthy. I think it's necessary because you'll go crazy. I mean, you will definitely go crazy because it's just been very interesting. So, at least, but anyway, I really appreciate you for taking the time to be here today. I just really admire everything that you do because, and again, of course, there's always people that help out with things, but there's always people that help out. One thing about you I like is that you are an organizer. You help. And some people need that because some people are not organizers. Some people just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I'm like that sometimes. Like sometimes I organize things. Sometimes I'm like, just tell me what you need from me and I'm gonna do it. So sometimes we need those people that are going to help organize, bring people together, and also be a person with that people respect enough to help out. Because sometimes if you see, because I know for me, if I see certain people over it, I'm like, I'm not gonna be a part of that because I don't really know, what their motives are. I don't know, so I'm not gonna be a part of that. But when I see someone that has integrity and I know that they're not like pocketing money, when you know that a person has a certain type of standards, you have no problem helping. I think that says a lot, and you're one of those people. So it says a lot about people like that because people will follow and help. And it's a beautiful thing, when they trust the direction that you're, helping them go into. So, I applaud that and I appreciate and I'm thankful that we have somebody like you in this community.
I appreciate all of your kind words.
I know.
There's a huge team. I mean, I could be trying to do this, that, and whatever, but I mean, there's just very, very amazingly kind-hearted people in Midland that love to serve and never say no. And we're just humbled. I'm telling you, Haley and I always feel humbled that we don't expect people to listen to us or say yes to anything we say. But it's humbling. It's humbling, and we're super blessed. So
yeah. Well, you are a blessing. And I will continue to shout that from the mountaintop. I will continue to shout that from the mountaintop. Thank you so much, Umbareen. I appreciate you, and have a good evening.
All right, you too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.